All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Channel 6 TV, Community Focus. It's countdown to election time. Coming up on the 8th day of November, we're going to be making a lot of decisions, whether it's national level, state level, or at the city level. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is the Bardstown City Council. I got with me somebody here really who doesn't need an introduction because he's been around for quite some time in various capacities as a city attorney and a county attorney and now running for city council. But I'm going to make you introduce yourself anyway. John Kelley, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Kenny.
Well, John, tell everybody a little bit about who is John Kelley.
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Bardstown here. I, of course, went to school here, and the only time I did not live here is when I went to the University of Kentucky. I majored in business administration, got my business administration degree at the University of Kentucky, then went on to law school and got my law degree in 1981 and came back and practiced law with my dad and Bob Eaton. Started out with them, started a family here. I've got 3 children, all grown now, who also produced me 6 grandchildren. I'm married my wife, Kathy. I've been involved locally here in the community. With you in Bardstown Rotary, I've been on that for over 30 years. I've been on the Old Bardstown Village for over 30 years. I also served as chairman of the board for a number of years there, and I was very involved in JCs until I was too old and they could kick you out at that time. But I was involved in multiple local offices, state offices, and even I was national legal counsel.
Okay. Well, I had your dad on here and had your son on here, so now we got the trifecta a little bit here. So basically, you come from a family that's been involved in community for a long time. You're not somebody that sits back and sort of watches things go by. You're one that basically gets out there and gets in the middle of the battle.
Well, I guess I've learned that from my father, and because he's always been involved. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. I've lived here, and I've kind of watched the last 2 years of city council, and there were some things that concerned me, and I thought, well, I can't just be the person that sits back and waits for somebody else to run and take care of the situation. That if I want to see it done and contribute, I need to get out there and do it myself.
Well, and that's a leader into it. That concerns you. I mean, obviously, when you see your hometown going in a direction that you may not necessarily agree with, or not doing things the way you think, do you believe it's? I guess, what was your conclusion when you're watching the city council and watching what's going on up there right now? Are you seeing dysfunction? Are you alarmed?
Well, I'm alarmed because of the dysfunction. I mean, you have things that have turned the discussion doesn't talk about really the issues. They get directed away from the issues because they're getting personalities. Yeah. They've gotten upset with each other, and there have been personal attacks. And when you do that, you can't get anything accomplished, even on things you agree on. I mean, there's a lot of things I don't necessarily agree what they did, or maybe the end result's not all that bad, but it's how they got there, and a dysfunction, and and here we are on statewide Louisville TV, our small city council, on a constant basis, and it's not for good things that we're doing. It's because of discord there. And because of rallies they had, how many cities have we had on TV had rallies out there about their local government? We've been reported more in the Louisville news about our city council than Louisville has about their city government.
Well, when you look at it, I mean, basically, what's the most scary part though? I mean, we had a revenues that's going down as far as what's left in the different funds and things of that nature.
The
utility funds. I know you showed a graph last night showing about the occupational tax of how it's really increased. Revenue is going down, but cost of taxation is going up. I mean, I don't think there's too many taxpayers that are real happy about that, are they?
No, I'm one of them. Here's the chart you're referring to here that I had last night, and of course I had 90 seconds to talk about it.
All right, you got all time.
So I got a little bit more time here.
Explain that chart.
But here, this is the occupational tax revenue for the city from 2007 to through 2018. Projected next year, because we now know what the rate's going to be. It's going to be 1%, and it's going to be double. They budgeted for 2017 2.8 $1 million. So when you double it, it's going to be 4.2, and that's just the budget. And a lot of times budgets are conservative.
Well,
so
my
it could be
question
more.
right now on that chart, is this already spent? Is that money that's being projected basically already spent before we even get it?
Well, certainly part of it is on the fire department, because they went full-time on the fire department and did additional expenses on replacing equipment that they lost and were sharing with the county, that they didn't fund that. So they rated the utility fund, they called it so-called dividends, which there's a statute saying you're not supposed to do that, to plug a hole in the budget. When they should have, if they're going to go full-time, they need to fund it as well.
Well, the utility fund concerns me too, because I'm not a city resident, but I live out in the county and I get city utilities. I mean, with cable TV and, well, it's like here tonight and everything else. So I'm paying part of that fund they took money out of. So that part concerns me a little bit. So when they raid that and they raise the taxes, is that say that they've got enough money to go for another several years, or are we going to have another tax increase next year?
Well, when you talk about what they're going to do, I don't know what they're going to do. If I don't get in there, I can't tell you about what they're going to do. But
what is John Kelley going to do?
But if I get in there, like I said, the revenue, just increasing revenue is obviously not the answer. I mean, you can see the first 4 years, Dick Heaton, had about $700,000 in occupational tax revenue. No occupational tax increases. He lived within the budget and created a budget on $700,000. And here he left office in 2010, and we're just a few years later, and got 4.2 million, or 2 million, and that wasn't enough. So now what was the question?
Well, basically the question is that we bought us a fire department, and we got to pay for it. Is it worth it? Are we going to come back a year or two now and we got to buy? Have we reached a plateau like where it's at now? Have we reached a plateau where it's not going to increase again? Are we still just constantly ask for money? All
right. Well, that's right. We started talking about we and they.
Yeah, we're talking about we and they. I'm talking about the Bardstown City Council. I'm including you if you're there.
If I'm elected, this is what I'm going to ask the council to do. I want to, what I see happens is that in late May or something, they give the council this budget with these huge numbers and these huge number categories. And there's no way a councilman can understand all those numbers and make a reasonable and intelligent decision. So what I would like to do, if I get in, starting January 1st, I'd like to have each department head come in and let's go in detail what their spending is, and not always necessarily to cut, because you've also got to plan as well, because they may take the electric utilities, for instance. I mean, they obviously have some infrastructure things that down the road they're going to have to do. We need to find that out as well. And if we can find efficiencies, let's find efficiencies, because obviously we got some expenses going up. And of course, you had mentioned the fire department. That that's one of the drivers. But the fire department increase in their funding, probably $600,000 or $700,000 from what it was before, not the additional 2.1 million we're going to get in revenue. But we spent 11 million in a couple of years.
Yeah, well, we got a new rec department that they're fully funded, no longer in with the county. So that's got to be that. Is that going to cost more money?
Well, I got a chart on that too.
Well, good.
All right, let's the recreation. And what they had city has potential legitimate issue on that. Said, look, the city is providing recreational opportunities for the city residents, and the county residents are participating. So the city shouldn't have to fund that. But historically, the city's always funded that. When I was young, the only recreational department around was the city. The county at least has come in, and we've got Dean Watts Park, and so they do the soccer, football, baseball, and softball out there. Now the city kind of does the inside sports. So what the county, was doing to help out, they gave a grant of $100,000 a year, and the city took the position and said, all right, they did a notice of cancellation of that contract. and gave the year. No, actually, it's Bill Sheckel's year that they gave the notice of cancellation on.
Uh-huh.
And I had a little bit of problem with that because they apparently ran up to the deadline where they had to give, I think, a year notice, and they went hurried and gave the notice without talking to the county. And that's that's not good. Let's put off the year for the notification. Let's sit down and negotiate rather than just send a cold letter out. It's been canceled, because right then your negotiation opportunities are going to dwindle a little bit. So what the city's offer was, the county, is that, look, you're giving us $100,000 and we got a joint board. We want $250,000. We want to give us $250,000. Well, the city had nothing to negotiate with. It's like when my kids would come to me and want an increase in their allowance when they were young. Uh-huh. I'd be giving them $10. So, Dad, I want $20. I'd say, what about 15? And they'll say, well, what about 19? And I'd say, well, what about 13? They go, whoa, the negotiation doesn't work that way. You're supposed to be coming in between. I said, well, you don't have anything to borrow.
No anything to offer.
You're not offering anything. So the thing would be to sit down with the county on a reasonable basis. I mean, the county can't just all of a sudden rip $150,000 out of their budget and say, here, just because y'all want it, we're going to get it. And that wasn't going to happen. So you just need to sit down and, okay, how can we share the burden of the recreation on a fair and equitable basis, and maybe have a joint fund to do it, like kind of 911 or something like that, where your contributions maybe change over the years and you negotiate something over the years, rather than all of a sudden, give us this. And now get back to my chart, they said they were going to, so the results of the failed negotiation was the red line on top is what the city spends in recreation expenses after the county's grant. What the city's out of pocket is.
Right.
So here we are starting 2007. Now we're 2016, and these are actual expenditures. I got the actual ones on 2016 a few weeks ago, and you can see the county didn't. How was it a good deal for the county residents? Well, not the county residents, the city residents. Yeah. How was it a good deal for the city residents? And now, of course, the grant funding had gone down to zero. Yeah. And it wasn't even good for the city budget. But but now that they've got two different systems, the county director and the city director. So that's, two different directors, two different systems. Well, all us city residents are also county residents. Yeah. We pay county taxes. So now our county taxes are funding the recreation director, and our city taxes are funding the recreation director. And the city, even if the city won on its budget, the city residents losing that. There's no way anybody can come out having two different systems.
Well, one word you've used over and over and over since we've been talking here today is the word budget. How important is it to be able to read and understand that budget for a city council person?
Mayor Rolte keeps on saying the city council has two responsibilities: budget and ordinances. Well, if budget's one of your main responsibilities, you better learn it, understand it, and when you're spending millions and millions and millions of city taxpayer dollars, you better make sure it's being spent wisely.
Well, then I guess it leads to my question as far as checks and balances. The mayor, obviously has done some things that you and others may not agree with, but you can't do it without the budget. You can't operate unless the budget reflects what he wants to do. Where's the city council? What role does the city council play in making sure that the mayor doesn't just go off and buy another fire department or something of that nature?
If he doesn't get a majority of the city council to approve his budget, he doesn't get that amount.
That's exactly what I'm asking.
The city council, and it's not, this is not without precedent. The city council can sit down and do its own budget, and and change every figure on the budget as long as they get a majority to pass it.
So we can talk about the mayor all we want to, but the city council obviously has to take a little skin in this game as well during this past couple of years.
Yeah, because I was surprised the mayor was on the radio this morning, and he said it's the worst city council he's ever worked with ever. Of course, and that kind of surprised me because, they gave him the full-time fire department. They gave him tax increase. They went along with the recreation contract. I mean, I'm not sure what vote they haven't done that he wanted.
Yeah. So when we get into this, I mean, obviously we say there's dysfunction in the city council, and that's what a lot of people, the word keeps coming up over and over. Is it dysfunction in governing, or is it just dysfunction in personalities and how they get along?
It appears to me in dysfunction in personalities and how they get along, which results in poor governing.
Mm-hmm. So when you get into we and they, you, John Kelley on the council next year, we're going to see a much different attitude, much different professionalism. What are we going to see?
You know, as an attorney, if I got personal on every time I got upset about how a result was in a case, or you know, that an attorney and myself, you know, on each side battling, you know, of course the law says we're supposed to zealously represent our client, where we're zealously. If we got personally involved, I mean, I would have just been tore up all the time.
Yeah.
You've got to set aside your personal feelings when you get in. You've got to respect other people's positions. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can learn a lot if you listen to other people. And even if I have a position on something, I will not hold that position so dear and hard that I won't listen to a potential better idea or a modification to that I haven't considered. And that's what you got to do. You got to share ideas. You got to respect everybody else's ideas. You got to listen to them. You can't just shut them off. And if you disagree, just agree that we disagree. Don't make it personal.
Yeah.
You know, many attorneys that we've battled in court and fiercely and everything, and we can go out and have a cold beer afterwards. You know.
So some people are better prepared to be in public service than others. I mean, it's to some degree.
You've got to have the personality where you don't take things personal.
Yeah. So you want to get us off the Louisville media and get us back to doing the...
No, we want to be on the Louisville media. We want to be on the Louisville media. Say, come to Bardstown. We're a great place to be. We've got a lot to offer here. We've got the Civil War Museum, the Stephen Foster story, the Bourbon Trail. So yes, we want to be on the Louisville media, but not because of the fights in City Council.
So after elected, you be elected November the 8th, election day, you're elected. The mayor's got 2 more years at least in office. I mean, do you see any problem there, or you can work with Mayor Royalty?
Well, in my interview with the Standard, I said, yes, I would like to work with Mayor Royalty, and then I got criticized from people, gosh, you can't work with him and whatnot. I'm going to try to work with him the best I can. I want to have an open relationship, a good relationship if I get on there, because you can accomplish more working with people.
Yeah.
Now, where he takes that is up to him. If he can't work good, and if he's not going to be open and giving information, and if he continues to go out to say, well, like the 911, I'm not getting any other proposals, and then we find out he's talking to state police. Well, I couldn't release that to the public because there's a negotiation. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You need to be open and honest, not only with the council, but
being
with
a
all the
city
citizens.
attorney, you might have a little more insight on what you can do.
You know, I mean, the letter was open records letter. You can get it. All you have to do is ask it. So, you know, why deny it? You know.
Well, is there anything else the voters need to know about John Kelley or Bardstown City Council before we get out of here? Because if there's anything else we need to tell them, feel free.
Well, you know, we touched on the fire department a little bit, and I'd like to touch on it a little bit more, because one of the things they said they were going to do is to better our ISO rating. And what, you know, for people that don't know, that's been used in the debate, it's the Insurance Services Office that comes out and will study a city and give a rating from 1 to, I think it's 10, or 9 or 10. 10, I think, is no services, or no fire protection services, and 1 is the best fire protection.
Now, how does that affect me?
Well, most or a lot of insurance companies will rate your house and your premiums based on that. Now, if we are currently a 5, New Haven's even better, I understand, is a 3. And if we can get our rating down, and I met with the fire department personnel the other day, and they're act like they've got a plan to get it down. But, you know, of course, that may cost a little money, but in full-time, they promised a reduction with ISO, with the full-time fire department, but they didn't have any plan to do it. You know, they went out and did some of the most expensive things you could do on it, as 1, a full-time fire department, and 2, the $750,000 ladder truck. let's start. We have a lot of points. I studied the 2013 report, which is the last one, so, and it's in this stack here somewhere. And we missed a lot of points on training, a tremendous amount of points on training. And to me, that's a lot cheaper than a full-time fire department. A lot cheaper than the $750,000 ladder truck. Cheaper than a new $5 million fire and police station. So let's get the low-hanging fruit first. Then have a strong plan where we can look at the citizens and say, look, here's our plan. We're going to get that ISO rating down, and therefore we can return some of this occupational tax money we spent back to y'all in reduced insurance premiums, and hopefully pay, get as much back as maybe it's costing in the increase. Of course, the amount you're paying in occupational tax, the amount you're going to save in insurance won't match, because some people don't live in the city and won't get the benefit of that. The ISO rating, some people rent and don't own, but even renters, the insurance is passed on to them as
well, John, when you retired as county attorney, I didn't think I'd see you back in public world, so obviously this must be pretty important to you.
It is. It is. So I look forward to, if I am elected, to serving and doing the best I can for the citizens, and we'll make sure we study everything and know there won't be any rash decisions. We will, and I also, before you make a decision on something, I think you got to educate the public about it, the need for it, the cost of it, and let everybody come out and express their opinion. And if there's opposition, we can look some other way.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you taking your time to come in here. I know you've been out campaigning and talking to people, and a lot of things going on. Obviously, you've got a lot of study going on there.
Yeah. So well, this is probably a third of my open records report.
That's Wednesday. Yeah. Well, John, appreciate you being here. We wish you all the best coming the 8th of November, and we'll see what next year brings.
All right. Thank you,
John Kelley running for Bardstown City Council. And again, the election comes up on Tuesday, November the 8th. We hope you show up and do your part, and we'll do what we can to make our world a better place to live. Stick around, a lot more to come here on Channel 6 TV. We'll be right back.